I don't need to open any more molds for the rest of my life. I'm a bit scared now. I hope it's what I think it is. Hello, my name is Shelby and I'm a potter. I found this bulk lot of slip casting molds and one by one I'm pouring them up to reveal whatever is inside and then finish it into an artwork. This is the Mystery Mold series, so let's see what's in today's episode. We are in for such a treat this week. These ones were actually picked out by my studio assistant who rummaged through them to find some really cool spring pieces that we could release at my painter and pottery studio in Ballarat called The Pottage. I think you guys are going to love what's inside this mold. Okay, so these ones go together because they both have the number 1260 with 2 dots next to it, which means there's 2 parts. So I found the 1260 of both parts and we're going to open them together. Okay, we're going to do the smaller one first. I'm having flashbacks to last week's mold. It looks similar to the roof we had on the incense burner. It's a shingle. Yes, a lid. It's got the lip here and we've got a little handle. Now the handle looks very fragile, but it's looking promising. From the looks of that other mold, we've got a bigger hole and a smaller hole, which makes me think we've got a teapot, and I will literally, I don't know what I'll do. I do not know what I'll do if this is a shaped teapot, because I've always wanted one. I've talked about it for years, that I've always wanted a teapot that's shaped like something else. In particular, I would be so happy if we found a cottage one. Let's open it. I'm a bit scared now. I hope it's what I think it is. This so far though, the lid is so textured, so detailed. It is totally stunning. And if the shape of the flatter, rounder shape is anything to go by, I'm very excited for the shape of this teapot. I think it's going to be so delicate and a nice height too, because all the teapots I've had before have been really tall and round, so they take up so much room in the kiln. Whereas if this is anything to go by, I think this is going to be more of a 2-person served teapot rather than the 4-person teapot that I've had before. Let's open up the bigger one. Oh my god, it's a cottage shaped teapot. I'm so excited. I don't need to open any more molds for the rest of my life. Oh my gosh, it is so stunning. We've got a little wooden door with some little golden clasps on it. We've got a wispy wooden handle and some wooden details, and it looks like some beautiful foliage at the front. It looks like a boulder. It's not a boulder, but it's like a cobblestone or like a limestone cottage, which is so cute. And then it's got this wooden lid that goes on top of it. I am itching to get this out. I have to get this out. There has been so many cute things, and I am so grateful for my current studio assistants. They're finding all the pieces that I have dreamed of wanting to open that are in that pile out in the shed. On this side we have the door, so I'm curious whether there's like a window at the back or even a back door that's open and kind of like peeking inside the house. I'm gonna get this out and have a look at the other side and see if it's any different. Oh my gosh, we have actually a extension of this tree that wraps around both sides, so the branches are kind of around the house and sort of almost growing into the roof, which is really cool. We've got some more grass, and we've also got an extension of this fence running around the, I guess what I would call the chimney, which is the spout, which I think is a really cool design choice. It's making the spout the chimney. So cool. I've got a continuation of this fence, but we have a window. And the window is so sweet because we've got a little kitty sitting in the window with some curtains and a little pot plant. This design could not be better in my opinion. The only thing is probably the pouring and whether it dribbles, but I love, like, look at this round shape. Like, it is nice and shallow but round, and it will fit enough tea in it. It's got a good lip top for strainers, but again, you can get those strainers where you pour straight into the strainer and it captures it straight away. You don't need to put something internally. I love the shape of this lid. It looks like it's going to fit flush and flat on the top and look like an overhanging roof. As for this piece, I know it's just a coloring in project, but it's a matter of like how to pull these textures off the piece and bring it to life with color, and that'll be the biggest challenge with this piece, is making sure that I enhance all the beautiful things that are happening here so it feels like a complete artwork. The one thing thing I am thinking of is it reminds me a lot of a Hobbit house. So I definitely want to lean into a sort of like Lord of the Rings inspired piece, a little bit more earthy than what I would usually go for, where last week I did lots of pastels and bright colors. I definitely want to lean into a more earthy, woodsy kind of aesthetic rather than that pastel-y bright color. Yeah, I'm excited to get into this, but the one thing I am noticing about this piece is the spout is higher than the lip, and you guys were saying that that is one way to tell that it might have a good pour. So that will be interesting to find out whether that's the case, because this mold is actually designed with the spout higher than the lip. So we'll just have to see. But some teapots I have, even my little cast iron ones, the spout is taller than the rim, but that still dribbles. So it's hard to know. And it's a bit annoying when something dribbles, but I don't even mind, because if it's something beautiful and a keepsake and it brings me joy, a little dribble is the least of my worries, and I don't mind it if it's something that's so precious and gorgeous for me to have. Let's trim it up and see if the lid fits nice and flush as well. To get a lid to fit, what I do is actually take the pouring spout off of both pieces just to give myself a blank canvas to work with, and then I can kind of gauge whether things need to be trimmed up. So here I did a little test run and noticed that the teapot was like a little bit too thick, so I just cut out the inner lip, and that little extra part that I cut off was just enough to allow the lid to sit perfectly. Is that not the cutest thing you've ever seen? The only thing I'm thinking about now is making a whole tea setting. I'm gonna focus on this teapot first and see how I feel, but I would love to make a whole setting that matches this teapot. It is gorgeous. I have made the decision to cut this branch off because I think it's too fragile and it's going to break in the long run, and I want it to last a whole lifetime. I've actually got most of the Merry Mushroom collection, and part of the collection is they have all these little mushroom attachment handles. So I'm gonna pour one of those guys up and attach it to the handle and replace the branch with a mushroom. I think it will add to this foresty hobbit type vibe that the teapot is going for. So let's take that off and add the mushroom. So this is just pouring up that little handle piece. I think this is for like a milk jug of the Arnold's Merry Mushroom collection. And then I dug out the excess clay. I then cut that little branch handle off and smoothed over the lid, and then scratched and scored to add the mushroom. One little hack I like to share is that this mixture is actually clay with vinegar, because it gives a stickier solution to connect pieces. Let's see what it looks like with the mushroom. It's perfect. Are you serious? Oh my gosh. It's so sweet. All right, let's get painting. For this teapot, I mentioned that I wasn't going to do pastels, and it probably looks like I'm doing pastels right now, but this is actually a bluey purple. And what I wanted to do is make the stones of this wall look like those gray cobblestones without using gray, because I thought it would just be too dark and eerie for my liking. Although a lot of people would like that aesthetic, and I know so many of you are like, please do grungy colors. I am actually using this purple and then inlaying them with a deep blue to sort of bring out the bluey grayness of the purple. So it's still sort of nodes of what I love, but with like a bit more of a grungy aesthetic. So with the lid, I added the brown, and last week I talked about how I didn't want to do a brown shingle roof, and this week I am doing a brown shingle roof. So I added the bottom layer of brown, and then I antiqued it with a darker brown. I actually mixed the darker brown with a bit of black to make it a bit more like a spooky Halloween haunted house. I mean, it's not completely Halloween haunted housey, but like for me, because I use black, I was like, oh, this is real grungy. I actually have a bit of a confession to make, is that I've never seen Lord of the Rings. I know, it's so bad, but I have context, so I haven't seen it. So when I was really little, my parents were really obsessed with Lord of the Rings, and they actually took me to Melbourne to see this puppet show, and I was really, really little, and it was a reenactment of The Hobbit, I think, and there's this giant spider, but they turned this spider into a puppet, but it was really interactive, and it like came out of nowhere and jumped out into the crowd, and when I tell you I screamed as a toddler, like absolutely screamed. I still have nightmares about this puppet hobbit spider, and I actually thought it was coming for me. Like my dad had to spend like probably most of the second act just like calming me down from this spider attack. So I haven't actually watched The Hobbit or The Lord of the Rings since then, but I love the whole idea of it, and I love the mythical creatures and the whole concept around all of that saga and series. But yeah, I haven't actually seen it because I think I'm a little bit scared. I'm a little scared too. Is there something like that, like a big series that you haven't seen, maybe because something happened to you when you were a child and it's kind of scared you? Like, I'm sure there's like lots of stories about the Neverending Story kind of being a bit spooky. Maybe even some of the characters from the Labyrinth, like the worm or the goblins. I would like to know in the comments, because I feel like we can collectively empathize with each other about not liking cult classics just due to a childhood trauma around them. If you have never heard or seen the Hobbit puppet show that I'm talking about, I just looked it up to see if there was anything on YouTube, and there's some very cursed videos of it, and that is it. Like, even the hobbits are very like nightmare fuel. So definitely, maybe this is why I'm scared of dolls, because they are horrific. And I think I'm more traumatized now as an adult than what I was as a kid. But yeah, definitely look it up if you're curious to know what I'm talking about as to why I haven't seen Lord of the Rings. Okay, back to the painting. So for the little window, I have added a little bit of my pastels in there, only because the cat sitting on the windowsill reminded me so much of my Maxi Bon, my ginger cat. So I decided to paint it an orange cat. I feel like I could have done like a black cat as well, but I don't know. It just was very sentimental to me to turn it into Max, and he also had a little green collar, so that's what I did there. I feel like it's a mix of grungy with just like little bits of me in it. For the leaves of the branch, I wanted to add some more because I kind of wanted to beef it out a little bit and add a bit more detail to it all. So I did a leafy green, so it's not super vibrant, it's still like a deeper, richer green, but it still is quite bright. But I think it kind of needed it to sort of stand out against the bluey cobblestone. And then for the leafy details, I kind of just started mixing my brush in with the different tones of green that I had, so like more of an appley green and more of a sort of soft pastel-y green to sort of give it a bit of texture and dimension, and then going back over the top of it with the leaf green again, just so that the layers kind of peek through like a watercolor illustration. I then painted the little flowers, and I've got to admit that it was getting quite muddy and murky to see the details of each of these things, and where there was detail, I actually forgot a little grass detail initially, and I saw it as I was putting it into the kiln to biscuit, but there was also like a little grass detail around the spout. I think it was the spout that I'd missed just because it looked so murky. I actually had a blank version of this to refer to just to see where the lines were, because once I started adding colors, I lost all the shadows, and I just needed that extra, I needed the extra reference just to know where to place things. And it probably seems a bit hard to understand whilst you're watching me paint, but it did get really murky as soon as I added the color. I couldn't explain it. For the little flowers, I just added sort of like a purpley blend of white, and again doing sort of a watercolor technique where I'm sort of mixing and blending colors as they're wet to give them dimension, and not really worrying about doing 3 coats, just sort of letting it be however the paint lands on the piece. Aside from that, I added a few little details, like on the wooden details, I added just a bit more of that black brown to sort of highlight the detail and the texture of them, but that was pretty much it. I'm really happy with it so far, so it will just be a test to see how it turns out in the glaze. So I popped it in the kiln, and here are the results. It is time to open the kiln for the teapot. It's in the little kiln because my big kiln's actually down for maintenance, as in a part broke in it, and so I'm waiting for it to be fixed. But let's open it up and see the finished results. Oh my gosh, that antiquing worked out so well. That is a lot more moody than my usual work, but I really like it, and I like that it's kind of simple in the color palette. That is so cute. The lid comes off nicely. It doesn't look like there's any cracking in that mushroom as well. I think the glaze is a little bit bubbly on the brown, but otherwise I think it's really, really sweet, and I'm excited to have a bit more of a closer look. I think I'm really getting around these grungy colors. I love how the deep blue turned out in between those cobblestones, and I even love the darker blacky brown that went in between the shingle roof. My only comment is that glaze is a little bit bubbly again. I still haven't got the mixture right. as from a few weeks ago, I mentioned that it was a bit bubbly. You can really tell on that handle because it's not as crispy as the lid detail, but otherwise I am so impressed with this piece. I did a test pour and unfortunately it does dribble, which is a bit of a shame, but you know what? I love this piece regardless, and I don't think it impacts my love for it at all. Do you guys think I should make a tea setting to match this one? I think it would be so cute as a little video on its own. Let me know in the comments, and here is a sneak peek for the next one. Again, thank you so much for watching another one of my videos. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more. Bye!